We are not getting a divorce.
We are not getting a divorce.
We are not getting a divorce.
Wait for it. Divorce.
Hi, welcome to the Superdivorce Supercast. I'm Nicholas Villars, here with a hot cup of coffee and two of my best buds just next to me.
And I am Robert Tallman. I also have a nice cup of joe here, and I play guitar in the band Superdivorce, and happy to be here.
I'm Bender, and my girlfriend's calling me.
You can take it if you have to. Oh, I didn't mean to. I looked over, and there was like a semi-nude photo.
It's not. It wasn't. It's not nude.
Okay, thank God.
It's from when she modeled.
Okay.
She was modeling her fucking torso tattoo.
Yeah.
Didn't say calling.
Oh, okay. I just saw
the
stretch of the torso, and I was like, whoa.
At the top of the hour.
Okay, I'll be right back. Let me just call her back.
Bender's he's saying he's calling his girlfriend back, but he's actually taking a shit.
No, I'm actually going to masturbate to her picture.
Yeah. That's the one thing you could probably get away with, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If you're sincerely masturbating to a photo of your significant other just because she's gone for a while. That's different than jacking it to, like, hardcore pornography, you know?
Unless they're photos that you took of her before you started dating that you had snapped from a tree across the street.
Yeah, that would be bad. And photos from, like, her elementary school yearbook would probably be bad, too.
That's off limits, I think.
Have you ever... that's a weird topic to approach, but I've seen a picture of Ivy from, like, 4th grade, and you put yourself in the mind of yourself when you were a 4th grader.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would have thought she was pretty back then and never would have talked to her because it would have scared me because I didn't talk to females back then.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, adults should only be with adults. Right, Andrew?
You don't want to look at pictures of your wife or your girlfriend from when they were in elementary school if you're going to jack off to a picture of them. So, don't do that because it's probably illegal, I think.
I was so confident that this show was going to start off really strong. I feel like we already fucked it up.
Well, anyone who listens knows what to expect at this point, I think. Unless we have a new listener tonight, and if that's the case, welcome to our show.
Welcome to the Superdivorce Supercast.
Yeah. We're giving wholesome advice here.
Yeah.
Don't jerk off to pictures of little kids.
Even if it is your wife or girlfriend.
It's still wrong.
It's still wrong.
Well, we're actually here because we're going to talk about Weekend at Bernie's tonight.
Yes, it's the Weekend at Bernie's Supercast, which I've been excited about since I got here and remembered it was the Weekend at Bernie's episode.
Well, we talked about doing it, months ago.
Yeah.
I think when it first came up.
Yeah.
So here we are. It's actually happening, and I look forward to especially hearing what Bender has to say in depth, because he just watched it today for the very first time, right before he came over for band practice tonight. So he's fresh. He's real fresh on the movie. Yeah,
and I'd like to give him props for doing that, because the original plan was we were going to jam a bit and then watch the movie and then do the cast, but Bender proactively, on his own free time, just... he didn't pop the movie in because he told us he pirated it.
Yeah.
But he watched it, and he was able to, reference some parts of it.
We watched it together just maybe a month ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were in Oregon.
Yeah.
Very late at night.
I think I fell asleep, but I mean, I've seen Weekend at Bernie's. That's probably in the top 5 movies I've seen the most in my life.
Yeah.
So,
well, before we jump into that, I remembered something that we've not been doing that we should do, and that is, as we get the show rolling here, we should tell everyone where they can download our music.
Oh, yeah.
Because everyone does that. You gotta plug a little bit, right?
Yeah. I'm cool with plugging. It's our show.
Yeah.
Nobody tells us what to do.
I'm butt plugging right now.
Are you? How's it feel?
Well, it's like a reverse butt plug because it's coming from the inside. I'm trying to hold the butt plug in,
Oh,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well,
not really.
Do you think there's
a lie.
Do you think there's anybody with the ability to pleasure themselves that way? Using their own turd?
Just push poop back and forth. Like,
yeah.
It almost comes out and then you suck it back up.
Then you suck it back up and let it out a little bit more and suck it back in and just tickle your prostate just so with your poopy.
Anyway, if you want to download our album,
you can do so.
Tell them the website, guys.
.bandcamp?
No.
Super... I don't fucking know what it is. Fuck it.
www.superdivorce.bandcamp.com.
It's actually much easier than people think because I think that kind of affects, people going to the site and getting the songs, but people think, I'd rather just stream it on Spotify, but when you stream it on Spotify, that's great and everything, and you get instant access to the music, but then the artist doesn't really benefit from that much. So if you can, if at all possible, not just with us, but with any small bands and even, mid-level bands, if you can buy it directly from their website or from something run by them, usually the money that you do put into it goes directly to the artist rather than some, asshole at Spotify or iTunes or whatever.
And you can stream on Bandcamp as well.
Yeah.
And you can also stream it at our official site, which is superdivorceme.com.
Mm-hmm.
We have it's an embedded Bandcamp player right at the top of the page.
Yeah. And if Facebook, was cool and would allow you to embed something like that on your Facebook page, I'm sure we would do that.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Hey, also on our official site, right there, as soon as you go to superdivorceme.com, you can see all of our upcoming shows, and we have a handful right now.
Yeah, quite a few.
Really excited to get out and play.
Yes.
I think we have more shows booked right now than we played for probably the past 2 years of Sleep Star Ignitions.
Yeah. And the lead up to it, I gotta say, is somewhat agonizing.
Yeah.
It's killing me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys are feeling the same way, because it's like, I don't know, it's like you're gonna do this thing that's super awesome and fun, and it's the whole point of why you're playing music, and you have to wait and wait and wait. But once we get started, it's gonna be almost nonstop for the whole spring and summer coming up, so...
Exciting.
Very cool, and it's all thanks to Nick. He's been busting his balls, getting us a ton of shows, so
That's right.
I want to thank that man.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah.
We're going to have a good time.
Hooking us up here.
Get out there.
Yeah.
And get after it, as they say.
Yeah. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I want to perform for people.
And if you see a show that, and that gives the fans the freedom to look at our shows and go, okay, I'm going to make it to this one. You don't necessarily have to Grateful Dead it and trail behind us. You could
if you
wanted to.
That'd be fun.
We would love to have a caravan of people behind us. Come onto the van and play a little Arkham Horror with us or something.
Some dice poker.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the van is big enough to play Arkham Horror.
It might.
What? You don't think you could play?
I think you could.
Making a joke at the size of the game and how spread out. it
well,
is.
Well,
Yeah.
once you hit a bump, all those little pieces
Yeah.
would fly everywhere. But maybe we'll devise some kind of a system,
Yeah.
of some kind.
Maybe when all the gear is in the venue and we have the entire back of the
Yeah.
van open.
Yeah.
And we have a couple hours before we play or something.
Then we can set it up and play for 15 minutes before we go on stage.
Yeah. Good God.
Yeah. How's everyone's coffee?
I'm doing...
done with mine.
If I did any more than this, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
I'd probably... you're more than welcome to grab some more, but...
We cashed it,
Oh, we cashed
Yeah.
it. Okay.
so
Yeah. I'm really enjoying this. I don't know. I didn't catch the brand or...
Pete's coffee.
Yeah.
It was the French roast.
I've had some
whole
Pete's
bean.
before.
Whole bean coffee. It's my favorite way to get coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend anyone out there who likes drinking coffee, if you're not on this game yet, you need to get a grinder. You need to start buying whole bean coffee. Grind your coffee every morning, and then use a French press to actually brew it. That's the best.
Yeah, I would say, I'm not as avid of a coffee drinker these days. I try to do mostly green tea and then coffee on occasion, just because I like the taste of it and I like the caffeine. But even so, there's such a huge difference when you use a French press and fresh ground coffee. It's night and day difference. It's like we were likening it to from concentrate OJ and like straight up fucking delicious, untouched orange juice. Because with the coffee, there's no like metallic taste or anything. You can drink it straight, and it's the pure way to enjoy your coffee.
Would you ever put whey protein in your coffee?
I wouldn't because I'm vegan, but...
Well, now, okay. Let's go back in time.
3 weeks.
No, what I was going to say, my response to that was my protein that I actually have downstairs, it's called MRM Veggie Elite. It's brown rice and pea protein. It's a mixture of the two. And it's chocolate mocha. And it actually has kind of a coffee-ish flavor. And I have put a scoop in my coffee before. And it tastes pretty good. I've actually made a shake where I put a cup of coffee in my shaker cup, scoop of protein, and a little bit of soy milk. It was dynamite. So, yeah, it's definitely something worth pursuing if you want to get your protein and your caffeine and have a nice little... If you love the taste of coffee and you like it as like a sweet treat, sort of like a coffee ice cream or a coffee shake, you can definitely do that with good results. So,
well, I know someone who, no matter how much coffee they have, they're not going to be perking up, and that's Bernie Lomax.
That's right. Because,
Because he's dead.
He's dead.
For most of the movie, we
Right.
end at Bernie's.
Yeah.
How should we approach this? Should we give the plot of the movie first for those who haven't seen it, or why don't you go ahead with that?
Okay, so Weekend at Bernie's. It's a film, a classic from the 80s, came out in 1989.
89? Really?
Yeah.
The year I was born.
Oh man, I kept thinking it was 87 this whole time.
No, it was, the trailer we just watched actually just had the year in it. It said
Okay.
89.
So late 80s.
Yeah. Just barely made it into the 80s. But it definitely feels like an 80s film.
Yes.
And, you're following Richard and Larry, two, I would call them schlubs.
Yeah.
Schmucks. That's what they call them in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two schmucks.
I view them as like just out of college slackers who just barely made it, and they're kind of at this company just kind of trying to climb the corporate ladder a little bit with...
Very big in the 80s.
Yeah.
that notion.
Yeah.
You're going to jump in, you're going to climb the ladder. I feel like people are much more jaded on that now.
Mm-hmm.
But back then it was still you could get in there, work your way up and to a higher position and really make some changes and be a mover and shaker.
Yeah.
And that's what they were trying to do. And they really did a good job because they caught a detail within the finances of their company,
right?
And they bring this discrepancy. Some money is missing, and they take this new knowledge they found in the company's finances to Bernie Lomax, who is their boss, and they point it out to him, and he tells them, "Great job, this is great work, you two," and he invites them to his house for the weekend as a thank you. And
house in the Hamptons.
No, he invites them to go over the paperwork more.
Okay, so they're going to go more, right?
They're going to work on the weekend.
It's sort of like a business / pleasure.
Yeah, it is. He does say when we're not working, we will
do drugs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So,
and we should say that Richard's the one who finds the discrepancy, and Larry tries to take credit for it.
Yeah.
Richard's your straight man, and Larry's like the goofy kind of, slacker guy who's kind of riding Richard's coattails a little bit.
Yeah. So,
but they're buddies. It's a buddy movie.
Won't give away the whole plot about what happens. We'll just say the guys show up to Bernie's house. Bernie has passed away. And you can find out why when you watch the movie.
Yeah.
But Bernie has passed, and they need to keep him around, though.
Yes.
They need to keep him around for their personal safety.
For their benefit, of staying alive.
And so you imagine, all the wacky capers that ensue.
Yes.
As these two guys try to make it look like their house guest is actually still alive when he's been dead for several days.
Just ridiculous.
This is a movie that I watched as a kid.
Oh, me too.
A lot.
Yeah.
And it's not a vulgar movie. It's something that I would be very comfortable showing my own kids if I had any, or if I have any, but only when you become an adult do you realize, how dark it really is.
Yeah.
Because it's very good at covering up how the darkness with how lighthearted and charming it is.
Yeah.
Because in any other, I feel like if anybody else would have written this movie, they could have completely missed the mark and had a terrible, mean-spirited movie on their hands. But
imagine Christopher Nolan's Weekend at Bernie's.
You can't Nolanize Weekend at Bernie's. It's just not possible, or Zack Snyder's Weekend at Bernie's. You can't take it ultra serious because then you get too dark and you lose the comedy aspect. So there's a lot of slapstick, a lot of physical gags, with the body of Bernie. And he always has this kind of smirk on his face.
Yeah.
Even though he's dead, he has personality as a corpse. Would you say that, Bender?
Yeah, I would say.
Do you consider it to be a caper movie?
Yeah.
Wacky capers?
Yeah, wacky a crime gone wrong.
Yeah. Would you call it a romp?
Definitely a romp.
Definitely a romp.
Yeah. Because you see how much fun the actors are having. I mean, it had to be a blast to make this movie. It's a joyous kind of, they're surrounded by beautiful scenery and they're in this huge, beautiful beach house for most of the film, and they just, the comedic timing is perfect, and it just seems like it's two guys at the, the peak of their comedy careers,
Yeah, I'd like to see Silverman and Andrew McCarthy make a comeback.
Yes.
Maybe in a Wes Anderson film.
I feel
like that's your ticket to coming back into the mainstream.
Yeah, or something like what they did with Michael Keaton with Birdman.
Yeah. They'd have to start art house.
Yes.
And then you kind of come back into the mainstream. Because people are like, oh, yeah, these guys are legit.
Yeah.
And then you can be wacky again.
You could Tarantino it, too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people forget that, like, John Travolta was nothing.
Yeah.
Before Pulp Fiction.
And he's kind of resumed his role.
Right. He had a little bit of a resurgence. And then he was in, what was that movie that he tried to play like an action hero and he had a shaved head and a beard?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking
Basic.
about. No.
From Something with Love. From
Paris with Love. With,
yeah.
From Paris with Love.
Because it was a play on the James Bond. Because there's a James Bond movie called From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
But they did the same thing with a different European city.
With Jonathan Rhys-Meyers.
Okay. Yeah. And I never saw the film.
Nor have I.
I feel like
I didn't have any desire to see it either. And I still don't, so.
Do you think that movie is, in your estimation, probably better or worse than Jack Reacher?
Worse. Because I've heard that, I heard even before you watched Jack Reacher that Jack Reacher is plenty competent as a spy thriller. It keeps your attention and, it's a halfway decent, it's not going to overtake the Bourne movies or anything or Bond, but, unless you ask Tim Heidecker. But, I'd imagine from whatever Paris, if that's it. From Paris with Love's probably a forgettable action dud.
Yeah.
It's probably a dud.
I feel like Tarantino has kept Tim Roth's career pretty alive, too. Yeah. I mean, he's been in some stuff, but I can't name anything he's been in other than Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
How would you feel about Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Silverman in a Tarantino film?
I'd watch it.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially with, I just watched The Hateful Eight, and I think the magic of Tarantino is taking these pretty serious situations, but throwing in these, relatively silly characters.
Yeah.
And so I think having those two actors thrust into whatever he does next would be perfect.
Yeah. Especially because the comedic timing in Weekend at Bernie's is so stellar. Mm-hmm. You can't imagine that they just lost all their charm and charisma over the last 30 years or whatever,
I saw Silverman was on a really good episode of Psych.
Was he? And
he plays, he's a compulsive liar. And he goes to them and he's just making shit up the entire time. And, I mean, he doesn't look much different these days. Mm-hmm. I think he's taking care of himself. Maybe his sister's floating him a few dollars here and there to
probably Sarah Silverman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Little known, Jonathan Silverman, the older brother of Sarah Silverman.
Yep.
He's a famous comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Which could be is that a trigger word now? Should we just call her a comedian?
I don't know.
Is comedian?
I still hear
actress.
Comedians refer to comedians as comedians, so
yeah.
I don't think it's too offensive.
Well, maybe not yet. Maybe a year from now it'll be super offensive.
Maybe having Jonathan Silverman on Psych is how James Roday hooked up with Sarah Silverman to get her in Gravy.
Ah, yeah.
Possibly.
Sarah Silverman is, I have a little crush on her.
Do you?
I think she's a beautiful lady. And I love her sense of humor. I follow her on social media. She's really funny. If they ever do a Bernie sequel, Weekend at Bernie's 3, it'd be nice to see Sarah Silverman do a cameo. Or even have a part.
I would rather see her in the Ghostbusters movie than Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah. Because I will say, there's one person in that female Ghostbusters movie she's a cast member on SNL right now. Not not Lisa whatever.
You're talking about the blonde chick.
Yeah, the blonde girl. She is fucking hilarious.
I've told Lindsay before, because we've watched a couple episodes of SNL now that we have Hulu.
Yeah.
And when I saw the Ghostbusters trailer and saw that she was going to be in it, I can't remember her name, but I said, of all the cast members right now, she's like the only one that I could see making the transition into like big budget movies and stuff like that.
Yeah. She's
very funny.
She's very at home on the screen. It's kind of something that you see in Saturday Night Live people, where some people are made for SNL and they don't make the transfer to movies very well, but she seems very at home in front of a camera.
Yeah. She
loses herself in those, sometimes, you could definitely tell that she'd be good in movies. And she's super funny. Yeah. She has this awkward kind of delivery that's really good. Melissa McCarthy, on the other hand, I find insufferable.
Yeah, you can get her on a bus somewhere.
And they're just marching out more and more fucking comedies with her in them.
The Boss is the one that I've been seeing trailers for. Yeah. I saw her, I guess the first time would have been in Bridesmaids, and I was just like, I can't do this chick. She's just not hitting the funny bone for me.
Yeah,
some people just have this quality about them where it seems like it's trying way too hard.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like somebody, like an agent told her, you're the heavy set funny girl, you gotta really try to be the female Chris Farley or something. And nobody had to tell Chris Farley to be Chris Farley.
Yeah.
He was Chris Farley. Everybody who's tried to fucking imitate him has just been... It's like, I always come back to the Tom DeLonge analogy. There's a Tom DeLonge who sings like Tom DeLonge, and you can handle it. And then everybody who tries to sound like him sounds like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
So if you're going to try to act like Chris Farley, just stop now and do something else. Do your own thing, Melissa McCarthy. You're not the female Chris Farley.
And you're not invited to Weekend at Bernie's 3.
Yes. Oh, man.
That would ruin the movie.
Yeah, let me pose this question to you guys. What would you do if Weekend at Bernie's 3 was announced, but it was 2 female characters, and it was Melissa McCarthy was one of them, and the other female lead was somebody else insufferable. I don't know.
Who else?
I don't
Amy
really...
Schumer.
Yeah, Amy Schumer doesn't get me going.
Yeah,
she's.
I feel like her humor hits me the exact same way as Melissa McCarthy's.
Yeah,
it's just this like, I don't know, just the fucking. I feel like they would do well in, like Not Another Teen Movie, or superhero movie, or scary movie. Those types of things where
low level, bottom of the barrel stuff.
Just lowest common denominator.
Straight to the $5 bin at Walmart.
Yeah. Not leading roles in big budget movies.
Yeah.
It's like, how did Adam Sandler get to where he is? When you look back, it's like, he had a few funny bits on SNL. He had his albums that were hilarious, but he's just one of those guys that overstayed his welcome, and now he's just a fucking laughing stock. Yep. But Melissa McCarthy never had it. It's not like she used to be funny, and now
she's got her
terrible.
fans. She's got her fan
right.
base. She's drawing enough people to get funding for movies and get cast and big budget films. So I don't know.
I think it probably has to do with her body shape and the way she's cast.
Well,
and it's like people will. Go ahead.
She had that TV show, Mike and Molly.
Yeah.
They canceled the show because she lost weight.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you notice, she doesn't look like a big fat slob anymore. She looks like a normal, like Midwest mom now.
Yeah.
She's still.
It's little... her demeanor, delivery.
Yeah.
I don't have time for it.
It's subpar. And if you like Melissa McCarthy, that's fine. Because some people like Adam Sandler movies still.
Yeah.
I'm sure people... I can't imagine who, but, popping on Netflix and seeing the Ridiculous Six and going, a new Adam Sandler movie, and I can watch it on Netflix for free?
I feel
Great.
like I follow Sandler a little bit deeper into his career than some people do.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed Click, and I think Mr. Deeds was a great movie, too. I really liked Mr. Deeds.
I only saw it once.
I was with him through Big Daddy, and Mr. Deeds was kind of in the same, like a couple years after that, maybe. Yeah. I was with him, up through that, and then shit just...
Once, like, Grown Ups started and all
Grown Ups, Jack and Jill. I've heard That's My Boy
Boy
is fucking awful.
Pixels,
apparently, yeah. Apparently, I'd love to sit and watch Pixels with you guys and then do a podcast about it, because I've heard it's epically terrible. Which is sad, because I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, the effects in that movie are really pleasing and cool. Yeah. I love the pixelated monsters, the Atari monsters and stuff, but...
What if they made Weekend at Bernie's 3 and they recast Bernie Lomax as Adam Sandler?
I might be okay with that, because he'd be dead the whole movie. I wouldn't have to deal with him. Unless it was like Rob Schneider was the guy... taking the place of Jonathan Silverman.
Yeah.
What if Rob Schneider was Bernie and Adam Sandler was
Nope.
Richard or Larry?
What if Adam Sandler's Bernie, Rob Schneider is Larry,
and Kevin James?
I was saying David Spade
Yeah,
was Larry.
David Spade.
Maybe 15 years ago it would have worked.
I watched the trailer for their new movie, by the way.
Who?
The new Adam Sandler, David Spade movie.
Oh my god,
it's coming straight to Netflix, I think, in May.
Yeah, because Sandler signed a four movie deal with Netflix to have his movies go straight to Netflix. And they paid him like $100 million or something.
Jesus fucking Christ.
He's so rich that to show up and be half asleep for a movie shoot and then release just trash.
Yeah.
There's no point to it other than Sandler needs more money and he needs to give his friends more money because...
None of them are doing anything.
Yeah, they don't do anything else but star in Adam Sandler
I wish
movies.
they'd make another fucking Grandma's Boy.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
But unfortunately, Doris Roberts passed and that's...
Yeah.
She killed it in that movie.
Yeah.
Especially when they get high, they drink the weed tea and...
I can hear my hair growing.
Some people who act high, they just don't get it. They don't get it right. They're pretending to be like, ugh. But you believe that she's high. I mean, they must have either coached her up or she must have maybe smoked weed.
Like she's probably smoked.
Yeah. I can hear my hair growing. Would you like some soup?
Well,
she's so charming.
I bet you they got her actually high because they were talking about.
They could have.
Well, if you ever watch one of Nick Swartzen's stand-ups, he talks about how they went in to do the movie and they were given like this prop weed, and then Dante in the movie, that's one, his real name, and two, he's also a real marijuana dealer or whatever.
Yeah,
so
Peter
they
Dante.
swapped out all the fake marijuana with real marijuana.
Yeah.
And just got high on set all the time. So they probably really did get her high.
That sounds great.
And, of course, Grandma's Boy being about video games.
Oh, yeah.
How would you feel about a Weekend at Bernie's video game?
It could be done well. It sounds like it wouldn't work, but if it's in the hands of the right studio, it could work.
Now, let's say you could do it any way you want. So you could go with big budget. You could have Rockstar make the Weekend at Bernie's game,
Right.
or you could do like an adventure game, like an old DOS adventure game, something in between, a platformer, puzzle game. Which way would you go? Bender, we'll start with you.
Go ahead.
Oh my god. I think I might be lacking a little imagination here, but I think it would be interesting and fun to do a Telltale Weekend at Bernie's.
That's exactly what I was thinking, so I'm going to have to change mine.
Just because, like, I've not, like, sat and played through a Telltale game myself, but I've seen, like, a decent portion of the first Walking Dead played, and just that blend of, like, pretty long story elements where you're just kind of, like, person to person and then picking your conversations, but then also, like, some action integrated into there with, with choices. Like, you could be going through and you talk to people and have to come up with different lies as to why Bernie is the way he is. And then, like, your action sequences would be like, you'd have to pick the right place to hide him or whatever,
or the right costume,
or the right costume to dress up in, or else people would like figure out that he's decomposing.
You guys are just carrying around a dead guy,
right?
You have to at certain points like spray him with things that cover up his decomposing scent.
You have to, you go around and you can find makeup to touch up his skin and whatnot. But I think a Telltale, if Telltale Games got a hold of the Weekend at Bernie's license, I feel like we'd all be in for a treat.
Yeah. I think that, honestly, I'm going to change my answer because I don't want to just repeat everything you just said, but I think that would be the most entertaining and probably the most, it would benefit the most that way, to tell it, kind of mix, the gameplay with the storytelling elements, because it's not really an action-packed movie, and people expect that with video games. But if you're going into it knowing that it's a more cinematic experience, you could do like a Telltale or a what's that game that I need to play? Until Dawn.
Yeah.
You could do something like that as well. I feel like kind of pick your...
You could get the people that handled Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls
to
do. That would be like your AAA version.
Yeah.
And then your Telltale would be like... Well, I mean, I guess a lot of Telltale is a lot of AAA stuff, but it is kind of the indie starts off on download only and eventually will go to disc.
My next choice, go ahead.
I was going to say, why don't you talk about, you do your choice, but why don't you talk about what if Rockstar handled the Weekend at Bernie's license?
Where I was going actually wasn't quite to the Rockstar extreme, because Grand Theft Auto is a game where you can almost, eventually as the technology goes up and up and up, Grand Theft Auto, you're going to be able to basically do anything in that game. You almost can now. You can just have your apartment and go race. You can play golf. You can, do any number of things within that world. So it's almost like 50 video games in one. I would probably narrow it down a little bit just because it's Weekend at Bernie's and it's a contained story. And I don't know how you could make it that big in scope. But you could do a very narrowed down kind of Assassin's Creed with it.
Yeah.
Where you're it's an action game in the sense that different things pop up and you have to complete objectives, but some of the time you have to have Bernie with you and you have to blend in and keep people from noticing that he's dead in different and more creative ways as the game goes on.
Yeah, I think like you said, you'd have to keep the scent. There'd be maybe like a meter, or you would just notice that you've got like the stench lines coming up.
You start seeing flies.
Yeah. His stench meter goes. his wig would slip and fall off, and you'd
depending on how much of a HUD you wanted to have. You could have it all be like visual cues, like Bender said, with flies start buzzing.
Right.
People that walk by you.
Yeah. It would be sort of a mix of Assassin's Creed and The Sims a little bit.
Yeah.
You'd have you'd have NPCs definitely playing a big role and you would, kind of on the harder levels, you would really have to work hard to keep people, but you could have like a novice level where it's just making sure his sunglasses stay on. Because in the movie, that's the logic, is that he's wearing sunglasses, so he's alive.
Yeah.
You know? He's just drugged out.
Yeah. He's very relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah, I like when he sells his Porsche when he's dead.
Yeah.
Somebody just grazes against his head and he leans forward, and that's his signal that he's going to take this certain price
$50,000
for his Porsche.
Yeah.
That this guy wants to buy off of him. So, yeah, you could have the island as your playable area.
Yeah.
You could even expand it a little bit, because Weekend at Bernie's 2 is a slightly bigger movie. There's
and
bigger
eventually,
set pieces.
I mean, depending on how long the game is, you might have to go back to New York
to
deal with some business.
Right. Yeah.
So then you'd have to get on a plane probably, or take a ferry or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be fun to have to conceal that Bernie's dead on a cross-country flight and get him through TSA without them figuring out that he's dead.
Did you guys ever play Octodad?
Yes.
What if you controlled two characters and you
With
had
the
Bernie
sticks
tied to your shoelaces, and whenever you walked, it was like Octodad mechanics.
Yeah.
Have you played Octodad? Yeah.
Yeah, where like walking requires like all four shoulder buttons or whatever.
So gnarly.
There you go. That's that would be funny.
Well, Nick, what would you, now that we've both given our kind of, I think those were the two that popped into my head.
Yeah. Initially, Rockstar came to mind.
Yeah.
You kind of went there. So I'm going to go back to the time when Weekend at Bernie's came out, and I'm trying to think of what an NES Weekend at Bernie's game would have been like, and I think you could have made it pretty fun, because you've got like the beach atmosphere, and you could have something on the boat, you could have something in New York, you could have these different sets, and then maybe your boss fights could be against like the thugs that
sent to the mob guys.
Yeah. The guy coming after Bernie. The kid would have been a good boss fight.
He would pop up and piss you off.
Yeah.
Because he's got the fake gun, too.
Yeah.
I love when he's around the corner of the couch and he pulls the trigger and he's just like...
Yeah.
He raises
his
middle finger
up.
Yeah. Back when kids could do stuff like that in movies, and it wouldn't be frowned upon by the mothers of America.
Yeah.
Organizations.
Can't have a kid giving the finger in a movie.
I think you had a really cool 8-bit music for Weekend at Bernie's.
Hell yeah.
Kind of an island type of soundtrack.
I used to love the steel drum soundtrack in Weekend at Bernie's too.
Yeah.
They had such good island music, and it always made me want to go on an island vacation, Here's a question. Would it play out in levels, your Weekend at Bernie's 8-bit version, or would it be more like a Legend of Zelda, where you could kind of free roam around?
I was thinking it would have levels.
Okay.
Like a side-scroller deal?
Yeah, a side-scroller.
Okay.
With various obstacles and enemies. You could have seagulls swooping down, and I don't know exactly. I'm trying to imagine, if you're maybe you get a pick playing as either Richard or Larry. I feel like that's what they would have done.
Yeah.
You would have played as one of the two. But then I'm trying to imagine how Bernie would have fit into the game itself. Like what you're trying to do. Maybe you're trying to get to Bernie at the end of each level.
Yeah.
And then once you beat the boss, you pick him up, and then you have to go to the next.
There's a little cinematic where they carry him to the next
and then
screen.
Something happens in that cinematic where he gets like taken away. Yeah. And that's where you have to go to the next level and reach the end and pick him up again.
And then when you beat the final boss, you would see the scene where Bernie is on the on the gurney.
Yeah.
And he flies out the back of the fucking ambulance and just lands on the beach next to your two little 8-bit characters, and they both turn to him and look back towards the screen.
Credits.
Some like it hot. Whoa.
Yeah. Good game.
Yeah.
I think there's potential there.
There's potential in literally all three of those ideas. So, indie game developers, we want our Weekend at Bernie's game right now. They did it with Back to the Future.
Yep.
Jurassic
Park. I mean, they've gone back to the past recently. I'd like to see a Beetlejuice game, too, and a Beetlejuice sequel. I think I've heard they're working on one. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's like greenlit. It's on the way.
I hope Tim Burton's involved.
Oh yeah,
it's always up in the air. Every time I see an article that says it's confirmed, the next day I see one that says Tim Burton says it's a no-go. I mean, every time, like, because I followed like multiple horror pages, so like iHorror on Facebook will be like Beetlejuice 2 confirmed, like starring Michael Keaton and fucking Winona Ryder, and then like the next day it'll be like Bloody Disgusting. Tim Burton says Beetlejuice is not happening, like it's not true, stop thinking it's true. And then like a couple months later it'll be like Beetlejuice 2 confirmed, and then so I have not looked into it, but as far as I can tell it's like it's greenlit, it's not greenlit, it's greenlit, it's not greenlit. Which sucks.
Playing with our emotions.
Yeah.
My one request from Tim Burton would be to use mostly practical effects if possible. Yeah. Because that is the charm of Beetlejuice. We don't need a CGI heavy Beetlejuice movie. That's not what Beetlejuice is about. Use practical effects, please, if we make that. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I would.
Good deal. I don't know if that would happen, but
we should do a Beetlejuice cast, because I've actually never sat down and watched Beetlejuice either.
Oh, classic movie.
Yeah. But we could incorporate the cartoon into that too.
Yeah, I love the cartoon.
Yep, I watched it.
Had
too.
all the toys. Those were cool toys. I saw some at a convention last year, but they were really expensive. And, yeah.
Wish I would have hung on to those.
Yeah.
So that was good.
That's why I like never get rid of anything now.
Yeah.
Because I had a couple things when I was younger, and now I'm just like, everything I buy, I'm just like, it's mine.
Well, how much time do we have left?
We got about another 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I know we don't have to do it now, but maybe we can, but I do want to squeeze in pitching a Weekend at Bernie's sequel.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
do you have something in mind already for yours?
Well, I figured we could kind of riff off of each other.
Okay, you want to come up with one together?
Yeah. Let's make it collaborative.
The Superdivorce Weekend at Bernie's sequel.
I think before we jump into that, we should mention that Weekend at Bernie's does have a sequel already, and it's a true blue sequel.
Yeah.
It didn't come out 20 years later for nostalgia reasons. I don't know exactly how long it was, but it felt like it was only a couple years after.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was maybe 2 or 3 years.
2 to 3 years after the original.
Yeah, I would guess it was 91.
That makes sense. In Weekend at Bernie's 2, we should probably touch on what happens in that, because you have to acknowledge that movie for 3 to work. You can't really...
Well, we want to make a cohesive trilogy.
Yeah, we don't want to do that thing where they retcon and ignore the sequel that came in between and just, one connects to this one now.
Yeah.
And call the movie Bernie Lomax instead of Weekend at Bernie's 3, like fucking Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. We're going to go Weekend at Bernie's 3, okay?
True blue sequel to the second one.
Yes.
And in the second one, Bernie returns...
Still dead.
He's still dead.
Still deader than Dick's hat band, as my mom would say.
But he is kind of brought back to life in a sense. There's a
in a sense, I like that.
He has he's on the receiving end of a voodoo curse.
Yes.
Or, well, not really a curse, I guess. He's dead already, so
yeah.
I don't know.
Can't
He's
really...
on the receiving end of a voodoo spell.
Voodoo spell is performed, and the motivation behind this is to get at the $2 million that he had embezzled from the company in the first movie.
Yeah.
Because in the first movie, Bernie is behind the discrepancy in the numbers for the company.
Yeah.
And, so he's actually a bad guy. He's going to have Richard and Larry killed.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
He knows where the money is.
Yes.
And they find out that it's somewhere in the Caribbean,
yes.
I guess. Is it?
They mentioned St. Thomas, so that would be the Virgin Islands.
The Virgin Islands.
U.S. Virgin Islands, which I've been to.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the Caribbean? Or is that different?
The U.S. Virgin Islands is its own thing. Oh. It'd be like, you would say, I'm going to the Virgin Islands, or I'm going to the Caymans.
I see.
I'm going to the Caribbean.
It all looks the same to me.
Yeah. It's an island setting. The water's clear and blue, and it's beautiful there. White sands. But they figure out that they never get the money thing isn't resolved in the first film. So they basically use that as a plot device for the second movie. Because everybody's after this $2 million. Even Richard and Larry have a scheme to get to the $2 million.
Yeah.
They're gonna pull Bernie out of his morgue that he's residing in. He hasn't been buried yet for some reason.
No. Well, I guess the sequel has to take place within the same week.
Yeah.
As the original for it to work.
Yeah, because there's no funeral and he doesn't get buried. Yeah. It's not a body snatching.
So Bernie has to be present to open this safe deposit box
that contains the $2 million.
Yeah.
In the Virgin Islands.
So they're going to go there with Bernie, with dead Bernie. They pack him into a suitcase. Take him to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And
hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
All the while, there's these two gentlemen under the, I guess, under the tutelage of a voodoo lady.
What's her name? Is it Mobu?
I think it might be Mobu.
Mobu.
We'll go with Mobu.
Sounds right.
We're not going to Google it.
Okay.
We're just going to go with Mobu.
Yeah.
But these guys, she wants the money?
Yeah.
Is that her motivation?
I believe so, because they're going to put the spell on him, and he's supposed to get up and walk to it, right?
And show them where the money is, and then...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so they are told to use chickens in this ritual.
Sacrifice chickens.
They end up, I think, using, like, fried chicken, don't they?
Yeah. They use a bucket of KFC in their voodoo ritual to bring Bernie back to life.
So it kind of tinkers with the effectiveness of the spell.
Yes.
So he can only get up and start walking towards the treasure when music's playing. And he does this strange kind of humping dance first when he's on the ground, and he's kind of humping the ground as he gets up, and then he
stands up,
props himself up, and then kind of does a
leans back,
and then the head gets going. It's kind of
he becomes a bobblehead.
Yeah, he does like a bobblehead walk.
Yeah. So it's whenever you hear somebody say "do the Bernie," that's exactly what they're referencing, because Bernie has his unique dance, so Terry Kaiser gets a little more to do in this one rather than just laying there. So whenever music plays, he gets up and walks toward the treasure.
Yeah.
And, so that movie, there's a lot of back and forth trying to steal Bernie and get him, Bernie comes into the hands of the two voodoo guys, and then Larry and Richard have to get him back. They reprise their roles perfectly.
Yeah.
There's no disconnect. It's not like Dumb and Dumber 2 or anything.
And you get Barry Bostwick.
Yes.
Chasing him around the whole time. He's like a private investigator.
Yeah.
And he ends up like losing his mind by the end of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, he has... It's the same kind of madness that overtakes the guy from the first movie.
Yeah.
Because they know he's dead, but they keep seeing him walking around and doing things, and it just drives them crazy over the course of the films. Yeah. Until by the end, they're just like blathering incoherently because they've lost their minds. It's great.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's Weekend at Bernie's 2 for you.
Yep.
Because Bender's only seen the first one.
Yep. I've not seen the second one.
The first one is superior, I would say. But
yeah.
the second one is not a throwaway.
It's still fun.
Definitely fun.
And one that I've watched many times as well.
Yes. And it's about as, you know, the plot's about as thin as you can get when you're bringing back a dead guy to cash in on the Weekend at Bernie's.
Now, it has been a while since I've seen the second one, so I'm trying to remember exactly how it ends, because that's what we need to figure out before we start in on the third.
I know that he walks into the ocean to get this safe box. I don't remember how the safe box ends up at the bottom of the ocean, but it does.
Yeah.
Because that's when he's kind of digging it out from under something, and
he has it, gripped in his hands.
Yeah, and they shoot him in the head with a fucking harpoon.
Yeah.
So now, for the rest of the film, he's got a harpoon in his head, his noggin, and he's walking with this box, all jovial and dancing.
If you recall, during that scene, they had to put the waterproof Walkman on him.
Yeah.
And headphones so that he could hear music when he was underwater down the ocean, walking on the ocean floor.
Because otherwise he would have
stopped
dancing and would have become a corpse again.
Yeah.
In the ocean, a bloated, waterlogged corpse. But instead, they strap some headphones on him and he walks to the bottom of the ocean.
I need to see this movie.
Oh, it's great. It's about the schlockiest sequel you can get. With the original actors, though, so it's not a cheap, like, Son of Mask kind of deal. And the comedy's still funny.
Yeah.
It's still a funny movie.
So in the very end, where is Bernie?
I believe that he pulls the money out. I don't think Richard and Larry get the money. Yes, they do! Because at the end, they're on a boat with a bunch of beautiful women surrounding them.
Yeah.
And, God damn. I don't know if Bernie's on the boat with them or not.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
We're going to have to figure this out. We're going to have to break the Google rule.
Yeah.
Because we can't effectively create a sequel.
That's right.
To number 2.
You have to get on the Wikipedia page and go to the plot.
Yeah.
And, can you do
here,
that?
My phone's about to die.
Okay.
I can pull it up here.
Okay.
It's gonna die.
We're gonna jump in on this, and try to figure out what the resolution of Weekend at Bernie's 2 is. Look, the tagline for the film on the movie's poster is Bernie's back, ... and he's still dead, ! No shit. Look how short the plot is. It's like 4 paragraphs. They put headphones on his head.
It was Mobu.
Mobu. Good job. Yeah. Good job remembering that.
Bernie is last seen leading Henry and Charles, who have been transformed into goats by voodoo
in a carnival parade.
That's right. And those two, Henry and Charles, were the guys who put the spell on him.
Yes.
They're the ones who were working for Mobu.
And they get turned into goats.
Yeah.
and there's no, like, cheesy special effects scene. It's just they are goats now. And Bernie's got them on leashes, and he's dancing to the music in this carnival as he walks them.
Larry confesses to Richard that he returned the $2 million to the insurance company, but only after learning Bernie actually stole $3 million. Larry and Richard used some of the remaining $1 million to purchase a yacht crewed by attractive women. So
93, so it was 4 years later.
Okay. So they
$7 million budget. Wow.
How much did it make? Let's say.
I don't see I think the gross is up top. Modest box office success. It's got a 10% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, come on.
Based on 29 reviews. 29 people who don't know how to have fun.
Yeah. The movie was filmed in 92 in the territory of the Virgin Islands, so it's true to its name.
And in New York City.
And, yeah, New York and... Yep. Yeah, St. Thomas. There you go.
Yeah.
So Bernie is still in the mix at the end of this film.
Yeah.
He's not been buried. Yeah.
He's on a carnival.
And he's still got the spell on him.
Yeah.
So you can use that in a third film.
Yeah.
Moving like Bernie. The style of dance was created called Moving Like Bernie. Oh my god. It's true.
It was referenced in an episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah. I think it's because it's the episode when Elaine is... she has her movie picks at the movie rental place.
Yeah.
And she does something to piss off the guy. And she rents Weekend at Bernie's 2. And she's watching it in her apartment. And she's like, he's still dead! Get on with it! Or something like that. It's funny. But Bernie's still in the mix. So, and he's still got the spell on him. So for the sequel, I mean, you really only have to explain how he's not decomposed over the last 30 years. Mm-hmm. So maybe the spell has something to do with that, or do you have him mummified? Or do you have him be a skeleton? I want Terry Kaiser back in the film, though.
Yeah, I think Kaiser needs to be in it, so that's going to be... I feel like that'll be the number one thing when you're sitting down in, like, the pre-production meeting.
Yeah. Going
over papers and whatnot. You'd be like, all right, first thing, this movie will not be made if we don't get Terry Kaiser, Andrew McCarthy, and Jonathan Silverman back for it.
Yes.
We have to have those three.
So, yep. I don't think it would take a lot. Just a modest paycheck.
Yeah.
They're not A-list actors. If the script is funny enough and maybe pokes fun at itself a little bit,
yeah,
you could get them in on it. So that's our job right now.
I think we're going to be able to do that.
Okay.
We just have to create a story that's going to be
in the next 30 minutes.
Now, see, you're talking about the voodoo thing.
Right. Are you going to break the voodoo chant somehow in yours? Because
I feel like that it might be good to do.
Yeah.
And let that be something that's unique to number 2.
Yeah.
Somehow you...
Because if you carry the voodoo to number 3, then you have kind of... Even though we like number 2, a lot of people viewed it as an inferior kind of shit sequel.
It'll be kind of back to the roots.
Right.
You know? Of the Weekend at Bernie's mythos.
The Bernie-verse.
Okay, our first issue, to me, to get started, just to start, is how the body hasn't decomposed beyond recognition.
I think the best way to make sure that happens is some sort of cryo chamber.
Yes.
Somehow he made his way into that type of setting. where his body has been preserved. That's the easiest way to sell it, I think.
Yeah.
Without bringing in something fantastical like, the voodoo kept his body from decomposing, or...
The only other way is if he was in kind of an Arctic environment and fell into an ice cave. And how do you find him?
Yeah.
He's lost.
A team of researchers.
Yeah. I was going to say he would have had to have danced all the way from that carnival at the end of Bernie's 2 to a place, a much colder climate, and the Virgin Islands are islands, so he would have had to walk along the bottom of the ocean until he got to a place cold enough to freeze.
What if... What if the carnival that he was working with was like a traveling show?
Yeah.
And so they are all... but they take, they've got their little plane on the island, and they're going to... this avoids like the TSA and security and everything because they just pack everyone up
it's
into the
private
plane.
It's sort of like a gypsy troupe.
Yeah.
They don't answer to the TSA.
Right. So they get on their little private plane and they're flying to the next destination and they have to pass through the Arctic and the plane goes down.
Or Bernie just falls out of it somehow.
Or they discover he's dead on the plane and get so freaked out that they just push him out the bottom. Like in Monster Squad, when the bottom of the plane just opens.
Yeah. We have to get rid of the curse. Or the spell.
Shit, yeah.
But if he's traveling with like the gypsy troupe, then one of the members of the gypsy troupe could somehow reverse the spell for some reason, or maybe another thing is cast.
They could recognize that he's dead, but he's under a spell, and then they maybe there's some kind of maybe they pity him a little bit, and they want his earthly soul to make it to its final destination, and it can't while this voodoo spell's on him. So they cast another spell to get rid of the voodoo spell.
Yeah.
And then they dump his body out of the plane into an ice cavern. I think the cryo thing is more believable. I think he wrote into his will that he wanted to be cryogenically frozen and brought back when the technology was there to revive him.
But
you can't break... How do you break the spell in that situation?
If Larry turned the money into the company, do they know Bernie was behind it? Because that, I would assume, takes all of his money away.
It could. He could have... I mean, he's the head of a company, too, so he didn't just... It's probably not his only money that he left behind. Is the $2
I just don't know
million
if like, if you die and it comes to light that you had embezzled like $2 million.
Do they liquidate the rest of your assets?
Or does that stay with you? Do they still honor your request to be cryogenically frozen, even though...
If he paid for it, he should be able to get cryogenically frozen.
Because
you pay those people up front.
Alright, so it's taken care of already.
Yeah.
So they still have to honor his last will and testament, right?
Right.
So you just have to now get him from the Virgin Islands back to the U.S. somehow and get rid of the curse. I think your idea is good. Because part of the
gypsy...
Yeah. Or the gypsy or voodoo person who's in charge of the carnival finds out about his condition and they want to release him to the other side, and then they contact authorities, right?
Yeah. You could mix the two. You could have them take off the spell first. He drops dead. He's now a corpse. Just a regular corpse that doesn't dance when it hears music.
Yeah.
The proper authorities come and pick him up. His last will and testament's honored, and he's cryogenically frozen.
I'm just wondering if this puts Larry and Richard in jeopardy. Because if people have seen them out with Bernie... Like, what are they going to think?
Well, they're nobodies. They're not going to get recognized.
Well, like, at this point, I mean, they're on that boat.
Yeah.
They're not with Bernie when he gets the curse taken off him, so no.
Well, I know, but don't you think people, like, in New York would find it kind of strange that Bernie his body was found Virgin Islands after he was already in the morgue.
Well, you'd implicate Mobu and Charles and whoever. So I'm seeing them getting away scot-free and not really needing an explanation because in the previous movie there's a dead man with a voodoo curse on him who walks around. So you have some leeway to allow for plot holes to make the movie more fun, and you don't really need to, well, he's dead, you couldn't bring him back with voodoo, plot hole. You can really... We're really analyzing this pretty well for a Weekend at Bernie's sequel. We just loosely have to get him... We got the curse off of him, and we got him frozen, so...
The kindly voodoo person and proprietor of this carnival contacts authorities. They come and pick up Bernie.
Right.
They find out who he is.
Yes.
They send him back to New York. And then it's like, okay, we didn't get through this process last time. Now that we're here, we see that this man needs to go to this cryogenics company, and they're going to freeze him, and...
He would need... Okay, here's another question. Probably an obvious answer, but maybe not. Did Bernie shell out the money to have his whole body frozen, or just his severed head?
I think the whole body.
Okay. You kind of need his whole body because you want Terry Kaiser.
Yeah.
But you could do some wacky things with just a head as well.
But then we risked the thing turning into like a CG shit show.
Right. And the charm is having them trying to have Bernie pretend to be alive, basically. So you can't pretend that just the severed head is alive. You need the rest of his body. What about our idea before where Bernie faked his death and it's like a guy who looks like him but he really survived?
Yeah.
Would we pursue that at all, or do we want that original corpse come back in our sequel?
That's possible.
We've gotten pretty far on the ideas that we laid out, but I should say before the podcast we had another idea for Bernie's sequel that involved Richard and Larry having jobs at the White House and Bernie Lomax becoming president somehow. Because he didn't really die, it was another guy who died. Because he assumed that he was going to get whacked, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe he overheard.
But then you probably wouldn't want to run for president.
That's right.
If you're afraid people are out to kill you.
Maybe he finally felt safe. Maybe the rest of that mob died off.
30 years later.
Yeah, because those guys are, they're not that old, but maybe they're hard living, you know? So he knows that the head of that mob that he was in cahoots with before is gone, and everybody involved with the original case is gone.
Yeah.
It's a little more far-fetched that way than having him cryogenic.
I feel like I just the continuity feels more pleasing to me.
If you have the original corpse and you keep him dead, because it would rob the charm from the first two movies if that guy they were parading around with wasn't really Bernie, just some guy. I like going the cryogenically frozen route. Mm-hmm. So you got him frozen, and many years pass while he's frozen.
Richard and Larry have been living it up.
Yeah.
Maybe they started their own business.
I'm thinking they blew the money real quick because they bought a yacht at the end of Weekend at Bernie's 2 with $1 million. A yacht's pretty expensive.
Well, at that point, maybe they saved enough to get something else going, and they've been rather successful since. And
we need a reason for them to get back involved with Bernie. Are they down on their luck and they or maybe they're looking into cryonics because
Yeah.
they're having an existential meltdown where they're looking at themselves in the mirror in separate scenes and noticing all the lines and the aging, and they go to a cryogenics facility to talk it out, to talk about a package, getting a package for themselves.
Yeah. Maybe they'd like to take a tour.
Yeah.
And they end up walking through the facility and seeing Bernie.
Yeah, the guy is going to show them, here's how well you'll be preserved. This specimen has been frozen for the better part of 3 decades now.
Yeah.
And they kind of bring him out, and it's Bernie.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is a good plot.
I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. I'm liking it. And then they start having flashbacks, like, you know.
If that happened, it opens it up, and you see Bernie with a smirk on his face.
He's wearing the sunglasses, too. He has to be.
I would just laugh my ass off, man. Oh, Jesus Christ.
If Hollywood can't make this into a movie, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
So what's going to prompt them to get him out of cryosleep? Why do they need to have Bernie's body?
What if technology, they've made a new breakthrough where they actually are going to try to wake him up?
Oh my God.
And what if they do it and he dies again? Richard Larry.
It's sort of like one of those things where technology has come. The technology's so new that it doesn't work all the way yet. So they revive him, and then Larry and Richard. Well, he attempted to have them killed. So how are they going to feel about
why they're going to be hanging out with them?
Well,
hold on. I've got it. Oh, all right.
I want to hear what you got too.
Okay. What if they find out that they've brought Bernie back, but they want to get revenge because he was going to have them killed?
Yeah.
So they go and try to kill Bernie, but whatever the process is failed, and so somehow it foils their plan, and they have to then resume trying to make it look like he's alive.
Yeah. My thing is, I'm thinking they bring him back, and Richard and Larry go to either confront him. Maybe they're not necessarily going to kill him, but they're going to confront him.
Yeah.
Because he needs to own up to his crimes. Even though he's died and everything, he hasn't really paid for it. Because he's back doing his old Bernie thing. So they go to see him, and they scare him somehow, or something happens, and he takes a tumble down the stairs and breaks his neck and dies. So now he's dead again, and they know for a fact that they're going to be suspects number 1 and 1A.
Yeah. Because
they genuinely had a beef with him. So they know that the authorities are going to be, so they have to somehow get Bernie up and at him and away from this place without getting noticed.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say they revive him, and he sort of goes about his business, maybe forgets that he tried to have him killed, and they are kind of just whatever, I don't know, but he sort of just goes about his business, and then at some point he dies, and the movie is them trying to get him back to the cryo tube to preserve him longer, put him back to sleep.
What? Wow.
But you could work that into them being suspects in his death.
Because I feel like if you bring him back maybe he's hanging out with them and he wants to apologize, so he invites them to his beach house again. And they're all sitting together, and he's like, you know what, you two, I could never repay you for what I did, so I'm gonna let you have the time of your lives here, and in my beach house. And then he proceeds to pass away there, and then they know that they're gonna be suspects in his death. I feel like that's a good way, but it loses a little funniness because now it's just a simple kind of like hide the body story because they want him to disappear again.
Well, yeah, there's got to be a reason why they keep him around.
Maybe before he passes away again, he tells them, look, that $2 million that you found, that was just the tip of the iceberg, guys.
Yeah.
I had been shaving money off the top for years, and here's where it is.
Yeah.
And then he dies again. But
I'm sticking on the confrontation.
Okay.
Because
little writer's block.
Well, I definitely think they should confront him.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea. I like the quasi-revenge idea.
Yeah.
But then I also see them as the guys who would chicken out.
Yeah.
Just before they're going to actually go through with it.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking is they chicken out, but then he dies anyway.
Yeah.
Like
maybe right before they're going to do it, they get out of him the fact, like you said, that this goes much deeper. There's a lot more money that no one knows about.
Yeah.
And I can help you guys get it. And then something happens before he's able to tell them.
Yeah.
Or
something that they don't have anything to do with. Like the tripping down a flight of stairs and breaking his neck, or the cryogenics thing doesn't work all the way and he just kind of, passes back out and dies, or, any of that could... Or there's a surviving member of that mob, like the guy who's...
Paulie comes back.
Paulie's still alive and he's very elderly, but he wants his revenge.
Uh-huh.
So he comes back to kill Bernie.
He's just been released from the mental institution.
Yeah.
And he sees Bernie alive, and he's just like, I'm gonna kill him! I'm gonna kill him!
Yes! He's completely fucking rehabilitated, too.
Yeah.
He's just getting out, and he's like, he takes a deep breath, and he goes home. He goes home to like a little apartment that he gets, and he's sitting down to a little TV dinner, and there's all over the news, it's like the very first patient cryogenically brought out of death.
And it's just
death
Bernie,
has been cured, and Bernie Lomax is standing there with reporters and stuff, and Paulie just drops his fucking his TV dinner and just loses his mind again immediately. The switch flips, and he's now crazy. And
so Bernie is actually a celebrity.
Yeah, now he is. Yes.
Yeah,
he's all over the tube, and he's talking about how it's his second chance, and he's got a new lease on life, and he's gonna really look at things differently this time around. And Paulie is.
Are we gonna examine why the first person you bring out of cryogenic stasis is like 80 years old?
Well, you could dye Terry Kaiser's hair, and
he still looks pretty good.
He doesn't look too bad for 30 years passing, because he's not a spring chicken in the original movie.
No.
So
I think they could make him look similar to the way he did in the original.
It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be believable enough to where you wouldn't be like, why did he age this much? You either put a wig on him or dye his hair and slap some sunglasses on him. And the mustache would need to be...
You also don't know how long he spent in the carnival troupe before they realized
his dead corpse aged. I don't know.
Just bullshitting.
Yeah.
But then, then the movie...
That's something you can kind of gloss over.
I know, I just thought it was funny. But then the movie becomes Larry and Richard have to get Bernie, his body, to where this new stash of money is, all the while avoiding, Polly?
Well, now that we kind of got on a new storyline here, so Bernie's a celebrity now.
Yeah.
He's the first person to be brought out of cryosleep. Mm-hmm. Well, not cryosleep. He was dead, and they cryogenically froze him, and now they have the technology to bring these people back.
Yeah.
So he's brought back. Paulie's still alive. Paulie wants him dead. Maybe Bernie calls Richard and Larry. There has to be a meeting of some kind. Or the revenge thing, the quasi-revenge.
Yeah.
And they show up to confront him and chicken out, but Paulie actually does the deed. And he frames them for the murder because they have all the motivation in the world to do it. Mm-hmm. So, you have a dead Bernie, again.
Yeah.
You have Richard and Larry being pursued by authorities, and Paulie is still on the run, and he's at large. And he's behind all this, but nobody knows it except Richard and Larry.
Why would the authorities be after Richard and Larry?
I feel like because they have motivation, because they... Does the thing come out that
they'll have to be in the spotlight with Bernie.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have, like, people wanting to interview him, and...
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's where that might be your new spin on it for this movie. You get a lot of you're kind of going back over what's happened in the past up to a certain point, and it's like, boom, now we are in the age of social media, and Richard and Larry are trying to go around with Bernie, who is dead, but he's a celebrity now.
Yes.
And so they're also trying to make it to this new stash of money while making it look like Bernie's still alive.
Yeah, because the confrontation, they come up to him and they start, Bernie, you tried to have us killed. You said that I was going to have a sex change. And Bernie apologizes, and he's very sincere. You can tell that he's sincere.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry I got wrapped up in all this, and it's not me. I'm going to treat you guys. Look, guys, look. There's more money. And they kind of back off of their thing, and they hear him out, and he tells them about the money, but somehow maybe Paulie, like, snipes him with a poison dart or something. From, like, a hotel. You gotta kill him secretly, Splinter Cell style. Because he can't mutilate Bernie. He needs to look like he needs to still look alive in some sense.
How about, he's been shot like 8 times.
That's right.
What if Paulie, like, dressed up like the chef?
Yeah,
and he like
poisons
his
him.
Food.
Yes, I like that. That's a classic movie way of killing somebody.
Because I could see him, crazed looking villain in his chef's outfit,
He's like laughing over the soup, over this big cauldron of soup.
Like the skull and crossbones box,
yes.
and it's just like a whole powder of.
Yeah. And Bernie, of course, eats the concoction.
Yeah.
And maybe Richard and Larry are sitting at the same dinner because they've now befriended Bernie and they trust him.
Are you sure? Because I was thinking that he would die during the confrontation.
That could be. Maybe they're at the dinner and he begins to eat as he's telling them this. During the confrontation, he's like, sit down, have some food, and they reluctantly kind of sit down to hear him out. Mm-hmm. He's like, look guys, there's more money, and then he takes a bite of his soup, continues, and they start to hear him out a little bit, and then he takes another bite, and then he kind of grabs his chest a little bit, maybe starts to look a little strange, and then he just... drops dead right in his soup.
They have to get some vital information before he dies.
Yeah. So they have to get a piece of it, but not all of it.
I'm thinking it's something like, look guys, there's more money. Tomorrow, the interview, I'm meeting with a guy.
Yeah.
He's going to have the details. I want you guys to come along with me. and we'll
Yeah.
go from there or something like
Yeah.
that. So he
Yeah.
dies,
Yeah.
but they know that he's got this interview that he's supposed to show up to, and there's going to be someone there that's going to want to talk to him.
It's like a Deep Throat style situation where it's like a shadowy kind of deal.
So they have to get him there and get through this interview with Bernie, who's dead, so that they can continue following this trail and find this money.
You could have them install like a voice box in his throat and just have somebody talking on the other end. Maybe just one of them goes and the other one's in a van somewhere, you know, with this equipment where you can.
They could say that. They could say when they're showing up for the interview, now, you know, like they're his spokespeople or something.
Yeah.
So it's like they're briefing the people giving the interview on the process, and it's like how he's just come out of the cryogenic sleep, so he is making an adjustment here.
Yeah.
All of his faculties aren't quite back up to snuff yet.
Very tired.
Very tired and
lethargic.
So you have to allow him.
Yeah. And then you have I feel like Larry's the one in the van and Richard's the one kind of propping up Bernie. Yeah. And Larry's going to speak for Bernie. Mm-hmm. And Richard keeps, Larry, like Larry keeps saying things that maybe are off kilter and, kind of.
Maybe Richard is trying to do most of the talking.
Yeah.
But Bernie's just going to kind of nod in approval at certain times or.
Yeah. So, and the guy that they're meeting with, or the person, whoever it is, knows the location of the money.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So it's sort of a meeting to talk about this. Mm-hmm. Okay. I like that.
If Bernie didn't tell this guy there were going to be two other dudes with him, that could create some sort of tension. It's like, who are you guys?
Yeah, who's this? And it's like, well, and then you have the explanation where it's like Bernie's a little under the weather. He's not feeling too well. He's been cryogenically frozen for 27 years.
I think you could really go from there because there's so many branches that you could follow from that point.
Yeah, we got a good foundation, though, for sure.
Maybe we should write this and pitch it to Hollywood.
We should. Hit
the big time.
Yeah. And we don't put any of our names. It's just written by Superdivorce.
For a screenplay written by a band.
Yeah.
And we just use the money to further our musical career instead of making more movies.
Yeah. We didn't really want to make movies. We just happened to do it.
It's just a pitch for people to go to superdivorce.bandcamp.com to get our album. And then they still don't.
Yeah.
The movie's a huge hit. It makes $150 million
Everyone's
domestically.
just waiting on the next movie from Superdivorce.
Yeah. And we're just trying to get them to buy our album, and
for
we go on Bandcamp, and it's 2 extra sales.
Really liked your movie.
Yeah, really dug the movie. The music's okay. $1 for the album, free download. All right,
well, that was good.
Yeah, I liked the sequel. Yeah. I like getting creative on the cast.
So we're going to do episode 1 of Mr. Belvedere next week.
How the hell are we going to watch it somehow?
Yeah.
And then do a whole podcast?
Yeah.
Dale's really fucking himself by not coming to these because he has no input on what the subject is going to be. So if Dale actually does the podcast next week, he has to talk for an hour and a half about the first episode of Mr. Belvedere, the pilot.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
All right.
I'm good with it.
Okay, next week on the Supercast, we'll be talking about episode number 1 of Mr. Belvedere.
Yeah. And by episode 1, I'm thinking pilot.
Yeah, pilot. Well,
and sometimes the pilot, they actually reshoot it to be the first episode.
Well, maybe we can try and track down the pilot and episode 1.
Okay.
And see if That's something
Episode 1, The Phantom Belvedere. That's what it's called.
Hold on real quick. We never talked about probably my favorite part of Weekend at Bernie's.
Okay, let's touch on it.
And that's when his dad walks in. Where's his dad?
Very good. Just lay out my blue suit.
I'm going to lay you out. You let your butler talk to you that way?
He's in his underwear.
He's a vet.
Yeah.
He's got a bone plate in his head.
I love what... Because he just, like, wanders into the kitchen, and then you see him walking away, and it's like, oh, didn't realize you had company. Yes, Roman.
Roman? It's his butler. That should be Roman Reigns' gimmick.
I like when he gets into the fridge, and he just kind of, like, rooting around, he's like, takes a drink or something, and he's like...
Just making dad noises. Classic dad noises. Richmond's got a grill over. They're sitting there in the fucking dark, too.
Yeah.
There's no TV going or lights.
Well, because they're making out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
On his parents' couch.
And he doesn't want to reveal the fact that he lives with his parents.
Yeah.
So, yeah. He tries to pretend that his dad's his butler. He's like the level above an intern at a company, and he's pretending to have a butler. Richard, there's a man in his underwear. There's a man in his underwear. He's my butler. My butler.
Very good.
Oh. Didn't know you had company. What's he say? What's he say?
Very good, Roman. Just
lay
out my blue suit for tomorrow. I want to lay you out.
It's like something my dad would say. How about I lay you out? Just fucking knock you out. Talk to me like
Goes
that.
right from being kind of polite about not knowing you had company over to how about I lay you out? Just
right in front of this stranger, this strange woman that his son's with.
not embarrassed at all about being in his underwear.
Nope.
You know,
That's great. If you haven't seen Weekend at Bernie's, go watch it immediately.
Yeah. Hopefully all the fun that we've had talking about it will inspire you to
Yes.
check it out for yourself.
And it's not, we gave away a few plot points, but you really have to watch it to get the magic. It's like, even if you've read The Hobbit, seeing the films is satisfying. So if you listen to this podcast and you've never seen Bernie's, it will still be a very satisfying and fun experience. Right, Bender?
As somebody who watched it at, 5 o'clock this afternoon for the first time ever, I can say that, yes, it holds up and it's quite funny.
Yeah. You're never bored.
No.
You're never like, when are they going to do something
And I know
funny?
we talked about a lot, but there's a lot we didn't touch on that you'd be surprised by and you would find hilarity in if you sat down to watch it for yourself. And watch it with some friends if you can, maybe.
Yeah. It's a good movie to...
It's a party movie.
Yeah. Have some yucks with your
It's
buds.
a good one to go back to and reference later on.
Yes.
Just speaking some of the lines from the movie when you're in good company.
Yes.
Can provide a few laughs.
Well, if you guys think you can come up with a better sequel pitch for Weekend at Bernie's 3, go ahead and drop us a line in the Divorce Club or on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear your idea for Bernie's sequel.
And also, like we mentioned earlier in the cast, don't forget to stop by our Bandcamp, superdivorce.bandcamp.com, and stream the album, download it, and if you feel like it, you can actually you do a sort of an advanced purchase of the physical CD copy, and I will draw you very personalized and special, one-of-a-kind portrait, a new insert, if you will, that can be your very own cover art for the album that I'll send along to you.
Yes.
So check that out.
Little known secret, only for podcast listeners. So tell your friends to listen to this podcast, because you won't find this out anywhere else. We won't post about it. But if you start our album at the 3.5 minute mark in Weekend at Bernie's, it actually syncs up with the film. So that's another fun thing that you can do with our album. So.
Yeah. So give it a try. And we'll see you next week to talk about Mr. Belvedere. Episode 1, as Bob said, the Phantom Belvedere.
Yes. We'll talk to you then. Hopefully you'll tune in.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.
Bye.
Superdivorce.